So process domain is our target, which we need to finish. And we are doing today task 3. Task 3 is about assess and manage risk. So you should know that when we are discussing the topic assess and manage risk, risk is a future event which has not occurred yet. Because if it has occurred, it will become an issue. Risk is just an event. Its impact could be positive or negative on the project or its objectives. If it is impacting the project objectives, it will be considered as a risk. So you need to understand while preparing the risk management plan, because the process is that you need to set the strategy, and strategies are set in management plans. And in management plans, we define what type of, if we remember the details of risk management plan, what will be considered as a risk, what will be considered the stakeholder appetite, that they are aversive, neutral, and seekers. Aversive limited to none. Neutral, they will take risk if there is an opportunity. Seekers, they will take risk for the business objectives, not thinking of positive or negative. For them, business is more important. So based upon the stakeholder appetite and based upon a stakeholder tolerance, so we need to set that tolerance also, that what is low, what is medium, what is high. So we can determine the risk capacity of the stakeholders. This is what we need to set all these things in risk management plan. Additionally, we establish the rules. Who will be the risk owner? Who will be the risk action owner? Risk owner is a person who is responsible to identify the risk, provide the trigger conditions for the risk, provide responses for the risk, provide contingencies and fallback plans for the risk. Additionally, risk action owner is the guy who will be implementing the responses. And if nothing is working, then they will report to project manager and then it will be handled as issue management. So the strategies will be set in risk management plan, and how frequently we will review the strategy. Its frequency will also be determined in risk management plan, that we will meet weekly, daily, hourly, or quarterly, depending on the type, size, and complexity of the project. And because risk or any other activity in the project is always dynamic, so it will always be live, which means it will always be iterative. I will be continuously or iteratively identifying stakeholders. Iteratively, I will be identifying the risk. Iteratively, I will be updating the baselines. Iteratively, I will be updating the project documents. Iteratively, I will be updating the stakeholder register. So everything will be iterative and will be changing as the project progresses. So that was about risk and how to determine the risk. And once we identify the risk, we can use expert judgment, we can do SWOT analysis, we can use Delphi techniques to identify the risk and provide the responses for the risk. We can use benchmarking, we can use industry standards, we can use industry journals to identify the risk. We can use prompt lists like Pastel, TCOP, or VUCA. We can use risk breakdown structure. We can use our affinity diagrams to identify the risk. So all these things are used to identify the risk. And I think I told you there are 37 plus things we discuss normally to identify the risk, the techniques, tools, and techniques. And after identifying the risk, we put them in a document called as risk register. And the risks which are lower than risk capacity, they are going into the watch list. So we will carry the watch list and risk register, and my responsibility as a project manager to keep reviewing them. So when the time of the risk is finished, I have to close them. When risk has occurred, I have to also close them. When minor risks become major risks, I have to update them. When major risks become minor risks, I have to update the contingencies, and unused contingencies should be given back to the stakeholder organization accordingly. So let's continue in this definition and let's try to answer the questions. In PMP, we have in adaptive project management. In adaptive project management, we have spike. We run spikes. Spikes are what? Iterations we do to identify the risk exposure level of the project, to understand that we should continue the project or we should terminate the project. So we do two types of spike: risk-based spikes or architecture-based spike or technical spikes, to check how much technical risk is involved or how much risk is involved. Can we take it? It's in the capacity of the stakeholder or not. If not, we will not do the project or we will modify our responses. So that was the explanation of risk. So identify the risk and prioritize the risk. Means the higher risk should be done on the top so we can eliminate that. Like in Agile, we keep the user stories which have highest return of investment and have highest risk on the top. So value will be increasing and risk will be decreasing throughout the project. Now you have the understanding. Let's solve the questions and let's try to improvise our learning gaps. So first question for risk. Your project has a risk register with 30 risks. During the last 2 sprints, the team identified 8 new risks. Stakeholders are concerned risk priorities may be outdated. What is the most appropriate action? Wait. During the last 2 sprints, the team identified 8 new risks. In which of the event or ceremony or meeting they can identify the risk, or they might have identified the risk as per the question? In review meeting, in retrospect meeting, in planning meeting, or in daily stand-up meeting? What comes in your mind when you read this? Okay. Planning or review, planning or review, planning or review. So those who are answering different answers, you should go and watch my recordings of the purpose of each meeting. That will be very helpful for you. In planning meeting, we discuss and evaluate the work. In review meeting, we demonstrate the work to collect the feedback. In daily stand-up meeting, we identify the impediments, obstacles, or blockers. And in retrospect, we discuss what went wrong, what new we can do to improve, and what went good, we should continue doing it. So it can never be in the review meeting. So even after I was explaining, you were answering review meeting. So if you don't remember, go and watch the recording again, the videos again for the events and ceremonies. That will help you to answer these questions easily. Because if you don't know the purpose, then you are shooting in blind and you cannot do that in exam also. So what is the most appropriate action? Reassess risk probability impact iteratively and reprioritize the risk register at a defined cadence. Cadence means that how we will do the thing, weekly, daily, multiple delivery, single delivery, and so on. Focus only on risks that have already occurred. So focus only on risks that have already occurred means it's a definition of issue. So it's an invalid statement. Remove older risks that have not materialized. So this is what update the risk register. This is a true statement actually. Escalate the issue to the steering committee. All those who are sitting here, please remember this. Steering committee is used at program level, not project level. Okay. So when you see the answer steering committee, in program, we have steering committee. In project, we have change control board. Please remember this point also. Steering committees are like change control board, but at the program level to approve the changes, to review the program status, and so on. So steering committee is actually the answer normally used in program management. Maybe the question might be related to the program, so that could be the correct answer. But normally we are discussing project management. So I gave you why every answer have what. Now, exactly, the only remaining answer is A, which is actually matching with our task also. Iteratively assess and prioritize risk. So yes, A is correct answer. And all of you try to answer here in the main window. So I can see, because otherwise I have to jump in the windows. Great. So that was the start. And now let's begin in the flow. A supplier offers a faster shipping method that could reduce delivery time by 3 weeks. However, it requires early payment and introduces a small financial risk. What is the most appropriate response strategy? Wait, please wait. We have responses for negative, And positive both, we have what? Escalate and accept. For negative, we have avoid, mitigate, or transfer. For positive, we have exploit, enhance, and share. So when you read this, which risk response you feel it is? Let's clarify the information, right? The purpose of this session is not to answer the questions only, but also to improve our learning. So instead of answering the questions, first find out what it is. What type of risk response it will be if you will take this option. It means if you will accept this, if you agree on this, what you are trying to do: avoid, mitigate, transfer, accept, exploit, enhance, or share. So surely it can never be escalate or accept, right? If you accept this, if it is not in your control, you will escalate it. And accept means no action. You don't want to take the risk. So accept will never be the correct answer. So the response is what you are trying to do. You can reduce the delivery time by 3 weeks. And in project, 3 weeks is huge amount. It's not something smaller. Whether it's a smaller project, whether it's a longer duration project. But it introduces a small financial risk. So what do you think, which type of risk response it is, or it will be if you select this? Avoid, mitigate, transfer, exploit, enhance, or share. So I can do 50-50 for you. I can remove this. When you are trying to save something, so you are actually what? Going for the positive risk responses, not negative risk responses. So it could be exploit, it could be enhance. Enhance is done at the time of planning level. So you can enhance it by exploiting it. So you already know the maths in your mind, but let's go and now check the answers. What is the most appropriate response strategy? Avoid the opportunity. We know that avoid is negative and opportunity is positive. So this statement is wrong. Share the opportunity, it's positive, with the supplier by splitting the cost. Does the question says cost will be increased? Does the question says cost will be increased? Do you read anything? Maybe I missed it. No. Very good. Exploit the opportunity by funding early payment and documenting justification, basis of estimates and risk responses. Seems to be the better answer, but let's go next. Accept. Accept means no action. Just document it. So yes, correct answer is C. So did you notice explanation took longer, but when you read the question, I will go again back to my mantra that when you are reading the question, you should have answer in your pop-up that what should be the answer, and then go and search those words here. Your answer will be very easy to find instead of rereading the answer, keep wasting your time and you're challenging your IQs. No, it's simple. Answer is in the question all the time. Let's go next. A high impact technical risk is identified. The team agrees it is important, but no one is actively managing it. It remains on the register for weeks without progress. No one is updated. So they made the risk register and they identified the risk, but they did not do it. And to avoid this, in PMBOK 6, PMI first time introduced the process implement risk response. This process was not there in PMBOK 5. So to ensure these things do not happen, PMI understood and they introduced the process implement risk response. Otherwise, it was like I planned risk management, identify risk, perform qualitative, perform quantitative, plan risk response, control risk. In sixth edition, they said, no, we will add one more process, implement risk response, and you cannot control the risk, so you have to monitor the risk. So that was a process introduced to avoid this situation in PMBOK 6. And it is valid also now. What should the PM do next? Increase meeting frequency until the risk disappear. Assign a risk owner and define response actions, triggers, and due dates. Ask the sponsor to personally manage the risk. Remove the risk since no one is acting on it. So the correct answer here is exactly. Now you guys are speaking the same language, what I wanted to be. Thank you very much. Exactly. B is correct answer. Very good. Let's go next. A geopolitical event, OPA or EAF. And which prompt list I can use to identify this risk? Prompt list are Pastel, TCOP, VUCA. So geopolitical normally we can be easily identifying with the PASL, P for political risk. Very good. Because of PASL, you have the global supply chain disruptions. The risk impacts not only your project, but multiple programs in the organization. So risk is bigger than, do you get it? Risk is bigger than your level. Not only your project, but other programs. You should handle it. I'm not going to the answers. Again, please do not answer what I'm asking. What should you do? Exactly. It's not in my thing. So when it's not your cup of tea, so it's better to escalate it. Without reading the options, you already have the answer. Now let's go find that answer. Create a workaround. Workarounds are done for unidentified risk. Increase schedule contingency without approval. You cannot move without approval. Escalate the risk to portfolio program governance for enterprise level coordination. Transfer the risks, and for transfer, you need to pay the premium or get the insurance. So correct answer is exactly C. Before even reading the option, you already had the answer. This is what I want you to be trained. This is what I'm expecting by doing these exercises of question solving. So please follow the style. Now, if I ask you one more question, anyone remember the topic that risk should be handled at its own appropriate level? What is this thing called as in project management? Risk should be handled there is a framework you guys establish, or there's a framework established. So risk should be handled at its own level, which is called as integrated risk management. What is this integrated risk management? It's a framework to guide and to provide direction that risk should be handled at its own appropriate level. And if you remember, just to remind you or to give your learning a bit of previous thing, if the risk is related to the objectives, project manager should handle it. If the risk is related to benefits, Who should handle it? If you remember now what I'm trying to say, if the risk is related to benefits, who should handle it? Program manager or sponsor. If the risk is related to strategic objectives, who should handle it? Portfolio manager. And if the risk is related to governance, who should handle it? PMO. If the risk is related to the organizational policies and procedures, those will be handled by organizational project management, that what type of portfolios, programs, projects will be selected. Very good. Perfect. Let's go next. A risk was identified that the testing environment might not be ready by the planned date. Today, the environment is confirmed unavailable and will be delayed by 2 weeks. What is the most appropriate action? Please don't jump to the answers. Find the answer here. What is the answer here? Risk was identified that environment will not be ready by the planned date. Today, it is confirmed. Today, it is confirmed that it's not going to be ready. So what has just happened? What has just happened? Risk is verified. It has become an issue. Now let's go and find the answer which has issue. And your life will be very easy. Convert the risk into issue and implement the plan. Contingency works or workaround. Seems to be the better answer, right? This is what we were expecting, but I should not stop myself. Continue monitoring says the risk is already documented. Reduce scope, we cannot, right? Add the delay to lesson learned and proceed normally. You do not ignore the things in project. So yes, the only available answer which is correct is A. I want you to be trained like this. Before reaching the options, you already have the answer in your mind. This is what we call it learning practice. A vulnerability is discovered in, I didn't read the word cybersecurity because I want to feel that, okay, it's not only about IT. You can still answer if you are from construction. A vulnerability is discovered in a third-party library used by your solution, which is the recent attack. If you might remember, there was an attack on N8 and flow workflows. Their repositories was hacked, and because of that, airlines who were using those workflows, they were impacted. No exploit has occurred yet, but a patch is available. Installing it may cause regression defects. Now, these languages, when you are reading, especially if you are not from IT, you will feel it. This question does not belong to me. So your answer, position of answer will be like, I will read it, what I feel it will be good. No. Remove the IT words, still you can answer the questions. Vulnerability is discovered by a third party tool. That's it. Nothing has happened yet, so still a risk. But a patch means a workaround is available or there is an update available. Installing the update may cause defects. If you don't understand the meaning of regression, that's fine. Defects. So remove the IT word, still you can answer the question. So when this thing is happening, what should you do? Again, please don't jump to the answers and find the answer in the question. Question have the answer. What is happening in the question? Anyone can explain me that, please? What will you do? Something is available. Something is available. We have a vulnerability which can create problem, but there is a patch available which can save you. But saving will bring some defects. What you are trying to do here is you are trying to accept, escalate, mitigate, transfer, or avoid. Because we are talking about defects, it means we are talking about negative risk, threat. What we are doing here? Exactly. We are mitigating here. Let's go and find the answer. Accept the risk. Why should I accept the risk when there is an alternate available? Avoid the risk. How can you avoid the risk? Because it is already happening. By removing the library entirely, if you will remove the entire whole library, how will you work? Transfer the risk to the vendor contractually. D could be the better answer also. But better answer here is, so if you look, B, C, and D all are correct answers in situations. And it depends on your mindset, what you are thinking, what is your appetite, what is your capacity, and you can choose accordingly. This is also a better answer, right? I will transfer the risk by paying some premium to someone else. That okay, you handle it. If you will not handle it, we'll penalize it. So now they will make sure that this risk should not happen. That's a good option. But you already have a patch available. So mitigate the risk with regression testing and rollback plan. So if this is the only option available, I would have never taken it. I am taking this answer because it follows with the full risk management plan. That what will be your backup plan, what will be your fallback plan. So you already have the complete information. You are not shooting in blind. Trust me, if this is the answer, it will never be the correct answer. But because of this full information, it becomes the correct answer. Perfect. Let's go next. Your sponsor demands a justification for contingency reserves allocation. Project includes multiple high-cost risks with uncertain probabilities. What should the PM do? Use qualitative scoring only and request approval. Use expert judgment and proceed without calculations. Perform quantitative analysis to estimate reserve needs. Allocate a fixed percentage of budget as contingencies to simplify approval. Which answer is correct here? They're asking justification. To justify, you cannot go with relative, low, medium, and high. You have to justify with the help of numbers. And it's a complete answer that you can use Monte Carlo's analysis to justify that. Very good. Perfect. You mitigate schedule risk by fast tracking two activities. Wait. You mitigate schedule risk by fast tracking two activities. We have, what is fast tracking? Schedule compression techniques. So we have two schedule compression, crashing and fast tracking. Let's clarify the information before we go and read the answer. Crashing and fast tracking. So crashing is we add resources, risk increase also. Fast tracking, we don't have budgets available, so we do the activities in parallel. And when we do in parallel, so risk is more higher than the cost. So what you have added? You have added further risk to the project because you did not have resources. This reduces the schedule but increases rework risk. This is simple. What should you do as a PM? Document the increased rework likelihood as a secondary risk and reassess overall risk exposure. What is secondary risk? When you implement the response of primary risk, Because of that response, another risk arises that is called as secondary risk. Assume the trade-off is acceptable since the schedule improved. Increase quality inspection frequency only. Remove fast tracking from the plan immediately. So the correct answer here is exactly. The correct answer here is A. Document the increase as a secondary risk that it may arise. Very good. Let's go next. A low probability risk has a very short warning window. If it occurs, it will require immediate actions within 24 hours to prevent major impact. What is the most appropriate response? Question should give you the answer itself. Risk is low probability and window is very short, and you will know. If it occurs, it will require immediate action within 24 hours to prevent major impact. So window of the risk is very small, but probability is low. What is the most appropriate response? What you will be doing? Imagine if you are in this situation. Let's take this our Middle East mindset that we have, the speed cameras and Saudi in UAE also. So you know that it's very unlikely that you can drive more than the required speed. But somehow, if your speed goes high, and imagine there was a camera there, like I was visiting a place. So normally we think that the speed limit is 80, but their speed limit was 60, I guess. So it was not even in my memory that it could be somewhere 60, and I didn't read the signboard also. So ultimately, I got the picture, which was a very nice picture. So ultimately, you know that you have to pay the ticket in X amount of time, otherwise it will get double and then it will keep adding up. So chances are very less, but it happens, then it will be an impact. So what I should do in this situation, I have to be very vigilant, right? And I have to use all possible resources to not let it occur or to not go that way. If it occurs, it will have a short window. So what strategy should come in your mind? Can you please put it in the chat window? That you need to improve your risk management plan, which means you need to set a strategy. You need to establish a strategy for those risks to save ourselves. Accept and monitor because probability is low. I cannot keep quiet, right? Develop a contingency plan and define trigger conditions and response owners seems to be the better answer. Transfer the risk to the team lead. Increase the issue log review frequency. We are talking about risk, not issue. So ultimately, yes, correct answer is B. That we have a full control over our chances. So that was a quite lengthy one. Amazingly, it took longer time to answer the questions because it involved a lot of explanation and a lot of supported information which could be required for solving the questions. So thank you very much for your patience to have task 3 of process domain.